Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I would like to gift my book, The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance to you at goldenkey.gift, where you can get the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD at checkout. All right, all you positive heads, welcome. It is a Monday. It is magical. I am here recording. You are there listening whenever you're receiving this broadcast. And I'm grateful to be at it again. And just coming off of a 3-day weekend at Music and Sky Festival, little very intimate, conscious crew of just, stellar souls gathering and very, very inspired weekend, and did some cool stuff. I'll share a little bit. I actually did some breath work for the first time for an hour straight. And I've done, of course, breath work many times before and talk about some techniques in my book, The Golden Key, actually. But doing it for that length of time, it was the first time I'd done it that long. And it was pretty cool to, as I think about, and something I've talked about on the show before, is this idea that we can go, a long time without food. What, they say, I forget exactly. I mean, no one knows for sure, first of all. I mean, there's people who claim to, be breatharians, for goodness sake. So, but, generally speaking, 7 days without food or something, you can go a few days without water. You can go couple minutes without air, right? So, and air happens to be the most abundant thing, that you need. It's the only thing that you still don't have to pay for yet. And so, meanwhile, how much are we tapping into this? And how much are you tapping into the power of the thing that you can go the least amount of time with? And the guy who was leading the breathwork circle that I was a part of said something like 70% of toxins leave the body through the breath. I haven't looked into that to verify if that is indeed the case. I mean, I think he probably knows what he's talking about, but what a powerful thing that we're not tapping into nearly as much as we could. And I found after an hour pushing through just strong inhale through the nose and more passive through the nose exhale. Strong inhale, passive, just finding that rhythm, that wave-like motion. I challenge you guys to try this for an hour. Push through. After 30 minutes, you'll start really feeling like tingling, etc. And at the end of an hour, I felt very high in a very good way for probably 15, 20 minutes afterwards. So what I started noticing too is as I was opening in this way, breathing in this way, you're opening your heart more. You're opening the possibilities more. You're feeding your cells, huge doses of oxygen. So if you've been feeling constricted or shut down or, any of those things, look at your breath. Have you been breathing shallowly? Have you tried extended breathing to see what it feels like? If not, I would encourage it. And so that's one of the things that, I just thought I'd give a quick share about that. Also, something that came up for me this weekend that I wanted to share with you guys is, this idea of when you are dealing with someone who, we all know these people who will tell you what you want to hear. And it's something that I just, came up for me this weekend. It's like, look, I don't want to hear what you think is my preferred answer. I want the answer. And, this reading between the lines stuff and giving people, telling them what they want to hear. Are you doing this, or is someone around you doing this? Is this something that you're participating in any way? Like, be a particular person came up in mind with this, who's always kind of, telling people, what they think you want to hear. And it's just like, I found the more blunt I can get and point that out in a kind way. There's always a kind way to say it, but say, really not playing along with that game. It's really important not to continue to play the game. Oh, I know they're playing this game of giving, an answer that I want to hear, and I kind of can tell or feel that, but I'm going to just play along with it. It's like stopping to play the game, a BS game in any way. Don't be giving people just the preferred answer. Give them the real answer. If someone is giving you an answer that it's, they're sugarcoating or whatever, gently, kindly, concisely, point it out. And you can always find a way to say, look, it feels like this is happening. And then it's challenging because then I have to read through the lines and I don't want to do that. And I think if you can find the courage to be that clear with people, the results on the other end will be very powerful. So, these are just a couple things that were rolling around in my brain this weekend, and of course the experience of breathwork, like I said, super powerful doing it for that extended length of time. So I highly recommend you guys try it and let me know how it goes for you. Otherwise, today I thought I would read a little bit more from Destiny of Souls. I did that last week as well for the first time in a while, and we have a really cool this Wednesday soul share, really, really powerful NDE, near-death experience story that someone is going to share. And so I think, in keeping with the theme of the week, I would go to Destiny of Souls again, which is a book by Michael Newton, who spent 4 decades taking people through hypnotizing people, taking them into first a past life that they pass from, and then their life between lives, what happens to them when they're on the other side. And over the 2 books, Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls, he just broke down all the cases, or a lot of the cases, and a lot of the overlap and sort of themes that he saw that helped to paint a picture of the structure of what it's like from the other side. What bigger game are we a part of? What is our larger story of our soul's journey through eternity? And what an interesting thing to learn about, right? So I'm going to just read a little bit again today. I'm going to read from Destiny of Souls, which is the second book, and it's a chapter. I've been skipping around some. You guys can go and you can search, sporadically over the last couple of years. I've read from one of the 2 books here and there. Whenever I felt like reading, I would just do it along with you. And it's a great book for it because you can really just jump around and get, different case studies and different insights into different things about the other side. Like today, I'm going to read a section about the Council of Elders, which we supposedly deal with. Our soul has a council that is sort of, you have your main guide. He talks a lot about that main guide or guides that help you sort of on your soul journey, and then sort of up the river from there. More advanced beings are our elders, which it talks about how we meet with these elders, and then give some case studies of that. And of course, when I read a case study, I'll do my best to kind of inflect my voice to show the difference between Dr. Newton asking a question and the person under hypnosis replying. And so this is chapter 6, the Council of Elders, from Destiny of Souls. The header is Human Fear of Judgment and Punishment. Not long after souls return to their spirit groups, they are called before a gathering of wise beings. A step or 2 above our guides, these ascended masters are the most advanced identifiable entities my still incarnating clients see in the spirit world. They give them different names, such as the Old Ones, the Sacred Masters, the Venerables, and pragmatic titles like the Examiners or the Committee. The 2 most common names I hear to describe these highly evolved masters are Council and Elders, so I use these designations to describe this body. Because the Council of Elders does represent authority in the spirit world, there are people at my lectures who immediately become suspicious when I talk about robed beings who wish to question souls about their past life performance. One man in Toronto couldn't contain himself and loudly proclaimed to everyone in the audience, "Ah, ha, I knew it. A courtroom, judges, punishment." Where does this fear and cynicism about the afterlife come from in the minds of so many people? Religious institutions, civil courts, and military tribunals give us codes of morality and justice which impact the conduct of millions. There is crime and punishment and cultural traditions of harsh judgment for human transgressions that have been with us since our tribal days. The positive effects of a code of behavior and ethics connected to all religions down throughout history has been enormous. It has been argued that fear of divine retribution is what keeps the masses at bay with better conduct than they would otherwise have. Nevertheless, I feel there is a downside to any religious doctrine that creates personal anguish over facing a harsh final authority and maleficent spirits after death. Organized religions have only been with us within the last 5,000 years. Anthropologists tell us that in the millennia before, primal people were naturists who believed all animate and inanimate things had good and bad spirits. In this respect, the old tribal practices were not so different from the idolatry of historical religions. Many gods of old were wrathful and unforgiving, while others were benevolent and helpful. Human beings have always been uneasy about forces beyond their control, particularly with divinities who might rule their lives after death. Since fears about survival have always been a part of our lives, it follows that human beings would find death to be the ultimate danger. Throughout our long history, the brutality of life meant that judgment, punishment, and suffering would likely continue in some way after death. Many cultures around the world have fostered these beliefs for their own purposes. People were led to believe that all souls, good and bad, would pass through a dark underworld of danger and trial right after death. In the West, purgatory has long been pictured as a lonely way station for souls trapped between heaven and hell. In recent decades, the non-evangelical churches have a more liberal definition of purgatory as a state of isolation for the purification of sins and imperfections before the soul can enter heaven. With Eastern philosophy, especially among the canons of Hinduism and the Mahayana Buddhist sects, there's been a long tradition of spiritual prisons of lower, defiled planes of existence, which is also being liberalized. This concept is another reason why I am against the use of concentric circle imagery of multiple astral planes as a map for describing soul travel after death. Historically, they were designed to show multi-purgatorial cells in an underworld of judges, courts, and demons. Seekers of truth who turn to the ancient metaphysical traditions of the East find a confusing mix of superstitions, just as with Western theology. While reincarnation has long been embraced by the East, there has been the retention of the doctrine of transmigration. In my travels throughout India, I found transmigration to be an intimidating concept which has been used to control behavior. Under this credo, a wide variety of sins are met with the very real possibility of the soul being transmigrated back to a lower subhuman form of life in its next life cycle of existence. In my research, I found no evidence to support transmigration of souls. My subjects indicate the soul energy of different forms of life on Earth do not appear to intermingle their energy in the spirit world. For me, the intimidation and fear transmigration engenders is a coercion of karmic justice. I have found the souls of humans on other worlds in prior incarnations to be in host bodies slightly more or less intelligent than our own species. I've never had a client assigned to another world where they were the most dominant intelligence on that particular planet, where they were not the most dominant intelligence on that particular planet. This is by design. Rather than stages of punishment, we go through stages of self-enlightenment. Yet large segments of human society are unable to shake off the nagging feeling, built over thousands of years, of cultural conditioning that judgment and punishment must exist in some form in the afterlife as it does on Earth. Maybe it won't be a hell with torture by the forces of darkness, but it's something unpleasant. It is my hope that what I have to say in this chapter will bring comfort to people inclined to be fearful about the possibility of punishment after death. On the other hand, there will be those who feel accountability to a council of elders may not be all that comfortable either. The Epicureanists of this world, those devoted solely to uninhibited pleasure in life while paying little attention to the plight of others, might also not be happy with this chapter. Neither will the iconoclast, who are opposed to authority of any kind, moral or otherwise. The spirit world is a place of order, and the council of elders exemplifies justice. They are not the ultimate source of divine authority, but they appear to represent the last station of beings responsible for souls still incarnating on earth. These wise beings have great compassion for human weakness, and they demonstrate infinite patience with our faults. We will be given many second chances in future lives. They won't be lives of easy karmic choices, otherwise we would learn nothing by coming to earth. However, the risks of life and sanity on this planet are not designed to cause us any further pain after death. The setting for soul evaluation. My subjects state they appear before their council right after an incarnation, and many report they will visit them a second time just before rebirth. Of the two assemblages, the first seems to have the most impact on the soul. During this meeting, the major choices we made in the life just lived are reviewed with us. Behavior and accountability for our actions at important forks in our karmic path are evaluated carefully. At the first conference, we are acutely aware of our mistakes, especially if we have hurt others. If there's to be a second visit as the time draws close for reincarnation, it is more relaxed with discussions centering around potential life choices, opportunities, and expectations for the future. Our guides notify us when it is time to go before the council, and usually they will escort us to the chambers of these ascended masters. To the average client, guides don't appear to play a large role at these hearings. However, when a more advanced soul tells me they go to this meeting alone, it is not unusual for them to see their guides sitting on the council while they are there. When our guides do appear with us in front of the council, they are rather quiet. This is because behind-the-scene discussions about our last life have already taken place between guides and council members. As our primary teacher and advocate, guides may want to interject a thought for our clarification, or interpret some concept for us if they think we are confused at any point during the proceedings. It is my feeling that guides do far more at these hearings than many of my clients realize. The descriptions about the form and procedure of council meetings are very consistent among all hypnosis subjects. When I begin this part of a client session, my usual approach is to ask them what happens when the time arrives to go before a group of wise beings. Here's an example of a typical response. The time of my expectation has arrived. I am to see the holy ones. My guide, Linil, comes and escorts me from my cluster group down a long corridor past other classrooms. We move into another area with a larger hallway that is lined with marble columns. The walls are textured with what looks to be frosted glass panels of many colors. I hear soft choir music and stringed instruments. The light is a subdued golden tone. Everything is so relaxing, even sensual, but I am a little apprehensive. We come to an atrium filled with beautiful plants and a bubbling fountain of water. This is the waiting area. After a few moments, Linil takes me into a round room with a high domed ceiling. There are rays of light shining down. The holy ones are seated at a long crescent-shaped table. I move to the center of the room in front of the table while Linil stands behind me to my left. When I first heard about these council meetings, I wondered why it was necessary for them to be seen in any sort of authoritarian setting. Why not a simple countryside scene if they're so full of benevolence? While the younger souls told me that this setting was right and proper for their examinations, the older souls explained that there was a major reason for a domed enclosure. With this design, a higher presence effectively focuses its light energy on the entire proceedings from above. I will discuss this powerful impact of this presence later in this chapter. A great majority of my subjects visualize a dome design for the chamber of the Council of Elders, as shown in Figure 8. They see the chamber structure as a manifestation of a holy place on earth. This celestial shell of a compassion, as one client called his council chamber, is symbolic of temples, mosques, synagogues, and churches. Figure 8 shows the central table, which is usually long in front and may curve around at the edges to accommodate a large number of elders. Some clients report that they see this table on a slightly raised dais just above eye level. I have learned these nuances and setting relate to what the soul feels is necessary for a particular meeting to be most effective for them. If a soul sees its counsel in more of an authority mode, there might be reasons for this, which I will then probe with a client about the life they just lived. Subject to a regress to the spirit world do not readily volunteer details about the scope of a specific inquiry from the elders. They must feel comfortable that the hypnosis facilitator knows their way around a council chamber. On an unconscious level, this confidence in the spiritual regressionist seems to give them mental permissions to speak about their sacred memories. This is the reason why my research into human memory of the spirit world took so many years. It was like fitting the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together. Small pieces of information about the spirit world led to larger implications which would never have occurred to me to ask about in a whole context. For instance, the reason behind a raised dais in the council chamber was one small detail that expanded into a larger meaning. Another was the position of a client's guide, particularly at the first hearing. As can be seen in Figure 8, the position of the guide in this illustration is on the left. For a long time, I did not understand why guides were usually positioned behind and to the left of most of my clients being questioned. If the soul has two guides, occasionally the junior guide will enter the room and stand on the right side. Most of the time, we have just our senior guide in attendance, and only a lower percentage of my subjects tell me this guide stands on the right. Whenever I asked why this is so, I received rather vague answers such as, "Oh, it's less restrictive," or "It is customary for our communication," or "We all stand in certain places out of respect." For a long time, I simply stopped asking the question. Then came the day when I was working with a very perceptive, advanced subject who told me about the importance of distinguishing all council communication. I received my question about guide position and received the answer. Okay, here you go. Here's a case. Why is your guide standing behind you on the left? Don't you know? With most human bodies, the right side of the head is not as predominant as the left. What does that have to do with this position? The left side, right side thing, not in sync. Are you talking about an imbalance between left and right brain hemispheres in a human? Yes, my problem, and that of many others recently returned from Earth, is a slight weakness of energy reception on our left side. It doesn't last too long. And as you stand in front of the council, you are still feeling the effects of your human body? You still have that physical imprint with you? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. We don't shake off these effects by the time of our first council meeting. It seems like only a few hours since my death. It takes a while for us to get rid of the density of the physical body, the constrictions of it, before we are completely free. This is one reason why I don't need Jerome, my guide, so much at the second meeting. Because by then we are sending and receiving telepathic communication more effectively. Please explain to me what Jerome actually does to help you by standing on your left side. In most humans, the left side is more rigid than the right. Jerome assists in the energy reception coming from my right side from the council by blocking thoughts which might escape out the left. Are you saying your energy aura is like a sieve? Sometimes it seems like it, only on the left. By serving as a blocking agent for thoughts which might escape, he serves as a backboard, bouncing thought waves back into me for better retention. This assists in my comprehension. Do you think he adds his own thoughts to this process? Sure he does. He wants it all to penetrate and stay with me. Subsequent questioning with other clients confirmed the backboard effect case 37 told me about here. At the beginning of their incarnations, while souls are learning to utilize unique and complex circuit patterns, they find that most human brains are not balanced between the right and left hemispheres. I am told that no two host bodies are the same in the way our brain hemispheres are linked to process critical judgment, creativity, and language communication. This is a primary reason why the wiser souls join the fetus of a new body early rather than late in a mother's term. Past life regression therapists work with the physical body imprints of former lives that may be disabling to their client's current body. Typically, these people come to us after traditional medicine has not given them relief. For example, a physical problem may be referred discomfort from a violent past life, past death. Part of our job is to deprogram these carryovers whenever they become debilitating to the client. In Chapter 4, we see how body imprints also affect souls who cross back into the spirit world with physical energy damage. I must say that before case 37, I never imagined a human body imprint could affect communications at council meetings. I was aware that during the course of these hearings, council members might communicate with each other in a rapid pitch of high and low vibrations. The average soul misses most of this sort of intercommunication between elders. The scrambling effect here is apparently intentional. I think it is safe to conclude that any conversation at council meetings requiring interpretation is usually handled by our guides. I have a rather unorthodox but effective procedure for a spiritual regressionist to use that relates to communication in the council. While I'm working with a subject in front of their council, I frequently tell them to ask the elders and attending guide if they know my spirit guide. The client usually answers in the affirmative, saying something to the effect that all masters know each other in the spirit world. I will then follow up with a question about why the client thinks these masters, their guide, and my guide conspired to bring them to my office on this particular day. The answers can be very revealing since my clients feel synchronicity is at work. Within this process of hypnosis methodology, more often than not, a subject will remark, I see your guide suspended over your left shoulder, helping you and laughing at your efforts to acquire more information about the spirit world than you need to know. Souls who come before their respective councils have been debriefed during orientation sessions with their guides. However, it is in front of the council where souls feel most vulnerable about their past performance. The object of council meeting is not to demean the souls who come before them or to punish them for their shortcomings. The purpose of the elders is to question the soul in order to help them achieve their goals in the next lifetime. Every soul has an awareness of the inquiry format for their life review, although they know that no two council visits will be the same. At the meeting for the younger souls, I have noticed both guides and council members are especially indulgent and solicitous. During my early research on council meetings, I learned that directed questioning by these spiritual masters toward my subjects was both firm and benevolent at the same time. I'll admit that when I initially heard about these hearings, there were doubts in my mind. I felt that if a soul was summoned to appear before a body of higher beings, there were going to be certain punitive aspects to a karmic review. This was due to my own cultural conditioning. Finally, I came to the realization that going before a council has many facets. The elders are like loving but firm parents, managing directors, encouraging teachers, and behavioral counselors all rolled into one. What souls feel for their council is reverence. Actually, souls themselves are their own severest critics. I find evaluations by our soul group companions to be far more acerbic than any council elder, although our peers do lace their criticism with humor. During the time when souls are moving toward the space where their council is waiting, there are mixed reactions. I have had subjects say they are looking forward to seeing their elders to get a higher perspective on their progress. Others are apprehensive, but this soon passes once the proceedings begin. The elders have a way of making the souls who come before them feel welcome almost at once. One of the most obvious differences between a courtroom on Earth and a spiritual gathering of grand masters is the fact that everyone in the chamber is telepathic. Thus, all in attendance know the whole truth about every aspect of our contact and the choices we made in the last life. Deception is impossible. There's no need for rules of evidence, defense attorneys, or juries. So that they can properly plan for the future, the elders want to make sure that we totally understand the consequences of our actions, particularly toward others. The elders ask us how we feel about major episodes in our life and our course of actions. Desirable actions and those that were counterproductive are discussed openly with us without acrimony or finger pointing. Regardless of the number of times we continue to make the same mistake, our council has enormous patience with us. We have much less patience with ourselves. I believe if the council, all the souls from Earth I've worked with were not so indulgent, the average soul would simply give up and not come back. Souls have this right of refusal to return to Earth. The elders probe for answers of how we think our host body served or hindered development. The council is already considering our next potential body and future environment. They wish to know how we feel about another incarnation. Many subjects have the sense that their council has not yet made up their minds about future lives for us. Nothing about this meeting appears to be rubber stamped. Our intent in life is of utmost importance at council meetings. The elders know all about us before we appear, but during the deliberations, how our soul mind interfaced with the human brain is carefully analyzed. They know our past record with other host bodies. This includes the control, or lack of it, we exercised over the baser natures and negative emotions of bodies on Earth. Compulsions, illusions, and attachments are never offered as excuses by souls for their conduct. I'm not saying souls don't complain about their difficulties in front of councils. However, rationalizations about life's trials are not substituted for brutal honesty. The council is looking to see if the inner immortal character of our soul maintained its integrity in terms of values, ideals, and actions during incarnation. They want to know if we were submerged by our host body or did we shine through. Did our soul effectively merge as a partner to the human brain as one harmonious outward human personality? Council members question souls about the use of power. Was our influence positive or corrupted by the need to dominate others? Were we led by the convictions of others, demonstrating no personal power, or did we make original contributions? The council is not so concerned about how many times we fell down in our progress through life, but whether we had the courage to pick ourselves up and finish strong. Seems like a good place to end right there. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. Sort of, I guess, closest thing to judgment there might be on the other side, and it sounds far from the type of judgment portrayed in a lot of like traditional religious dogmas and structures. So, all right. Well, that's it for today. Hope you all are doing well to prepare for your meeting with your council of elders and picking yourself up when you fall back down and not falling for any of the traps of humanness, right? And just rising above in your originality, because it is within you, and I believe in you. You got this. Otherwise, I do have a song to leave you guys with. This is Volo, V-O-L-O. The song is called Prisma Flow. Till next time, journey well. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.